Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
If you're listening right now, whether you are, commuting, making your morning coffee, or just taking a well-deserved break, we're going to keep things at a really comfortable, clear pace today.
Exactly. Nice and easy.
Right. Today's deep dive is designed especially for those of you who are learning English right now. We're going to keep the vocabulary simple and the conversation totally relaxed so you can just enjoy the ride.
It's a really great approach.
Yeah.
The comfortable pace is so important when you're picking up new words. It gives your brain the time it actually needs to process the ideas instead of just constantly trying to catch up.
Totally. And we have a really fun piece of source material to look at today. We are exploring a daily English conversation lesson, and the title is just great. It's called Day-4, The Pasta Disaster.
The pasta disaster. You hear that, and you immediately know something funny is going to happen.
You really do. So our mission today is to unpack this hilarious story about a cooking experiment gone completely wrong. But, we aren't just going to laugh at the story.
Right. There's a real learning goal here.
Exactly. We are going to extract some fantastic everyday English vocabulary from it. And we'll see exactly why learning through a funny story is so much easier than just staring at a boring list of words.
It really is a powerful way to learn. But what's interesting is how the lesson actually begins. Because before we even get into the kitchen for the disaster, the material starts with a very quick, practical review.
Oh, right. They do a little warm-up.
Yeah, a warm-up.
Yeah.
The two characters in our story, Angela and Jack, kick things off by looking back at their Day 3 lesson. That previous lesson was all about clothing. Jack mentions he's wearing a bigger shirt today, and Angela uses that moment to test him.
She wants to see if he remembers the important phrases from yesterday. She asks him how to find out the price of something in a store, and Jack gives the perfect answer. He says, "How much is this?" Which is honestly probably one of the most useful phrases you can learn in any language. How much is this?
It is essential. And then Angela reminds him of another really crucial phrase. If that shirt he wants to buy doesn't fit his body, he needs to be able to say, "It is too small."
It is too small. Another great one.
Right. How much is this? And it is too small.
Mm-hmm.
Are highly practical phrases. But what's really cool here is the teaching method. They don't just rush right into the new cooking words. They deliberately pause to review the old topic first.
Because it builds a really strong foundation.
Yes. By bringing up yesterday's phrases at the start of today's lesson, they forced the brain to remember that information just as it might be starting to fade away.
It really is like a mental warm-up. You wouldn't go for a fast run without stretching your legs first. They're warming up their English brains before they start the main event.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's get right into that main story. Jack tells Angela he is going to cook dinner for them tonight. And he's incredibly excited about it because he decides to make his absolute favorite food, pasta with tomato sauce.
A classic choice. And generally speaking, pasta is a fairly easy meal for a beginner to make. So Angela asks him about his cooking process, and Jack explains that he followed a recipe.
A very simple recipe.
Right. The recipe gave him a very straightforward instruction. It simply said, boil water in a pot.
Boil water in a pot. It seems completely foolproof. You can't mess that up.
You wouldn't think so.
So Jack follows the instruction. He puts the water in the pot. He turns on the fire, and he is off to a great start. But then he falls victim to the most modern mistake possible. He gets completely distracted.
By his phone.
By his phone. He starts watching a funny video on his phone.
This is such a great narrative choice by the creators of this lesson. It's something everyone listening right now can probably relate to. You start a simple task, your phone catches your eye, and suddenly you completely lose track of time.
Oh, I am definitely guilty of the phone distraction. We all are.
Totally. But in Jack's case, losing track of time has a huge consequence. Angela asks him, "Jack, how long did you boil it?" And Jack has to admit that he left the pot boiling on the stove for about an hour.
1 whole hour?
Yeah, an hour. The physical result of boiling a pot of pasta for an hour is a total disaster. When Jack finally looks up from his funny video and checks the stove, there is absolutely no water left.
None at all.
None. The heat evaporated all of it, and the pasta itself has turned completely black.
Oh, wow.
He's totally burned it.
Just imagine the smell of burnt black pasta in that kitchen. It must have been awful. But, you really have to admire Jack's positive attitude here because he doesn't just quit.
No, he keeps going.
Right. He tells Angela that he didn't give up. he decides he's going to make the tomato sauce anyway. So he gathers his ingredients, he puts in tomatoes, which is correct, he puts in salt, which is also correct, and then he puts in sugar.
And he doesn't just add a tiny little pinch of sugar, he adds a massive amount. Now, this moment is actually a very clever detail. Jack says to Angela, "Remember day 1, I love sugar."
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's a callback to the very first lesson in their series. It rewards the listener who has been following along from the start. It makes Jack feel like a real person with real habits.
It's like an inside joke with the audience. If you know Jack, you know he has a huge sweet tooth. But he loves sugar so much that he puts 5 spoons of sugar into the tomato sauce.
5 spoons.
5 whole spoons. That is an incredible amount of sweetness for a pasta sauce.
It creates a really funny, absurd situation. The contrast is just extreme.
Exactly. So we have this plate of completely black, burnt pasta, and it's covered in a super sweet, sugary tomato sauce. And Jack is feeling very proud of himself. He hands the plate to Angela and says, "Here, Angela, try it."
This is the moment of truth. And Angela is clearly a very nice friend. She doesn't just say no. She takes a bite. And her first reaction is very careful. She just says, "Oh my."
She's trying so hard to be polite.
She really is. She actually calls the food interesting.
Which is the universal word people use when they want to be polite about something that is actually terrible. When someone calls your cooking interesting, you know you're in big trouble.
Absolutely. But then she gives a very specific description of the flavor. She says it tastes like candy and burnt toast.
Candy and burnt toast. That is my favorite part of the entire lesson.
It's such a vivid phrase.
Yeah.
And think about why this works so well for someone learning English. It creates a really strong sensory image in your mind. You don't need a dictionary to understand what that means.
Right. Your brain can instantly imagine the bitter taste of burnt toast mixed with the super sweet taste of candy. It's just a gross combination.
It's awful. And Jack, who is somehow still hoping for a compliment, asks her, "Is it delicious?"
Oh, Jack. He's so hopeful.
He is. But Angela finally has to be completely honest. She says, "No, Jack, it is terrible." She says it with a laugh, so we know she isn't mad at him, but she makes it very clear. It is not delicious.
Yeah.
It is terrible.
So they have a ruined dinner. They have to change their plans. Angela suggests the best solution to a ruined dinner. She says, "Let's order a pizza."
Ordering a pizza is the ultimate backup plan.
It really is. But Angela finishes her suggestion with a very funny warning. She tells Jack, "And this time, please don't go to the pet hospital."
That line is so great. Please don't go to the pet hospital.
We don't even get the full story behind that. We don't know exactly what Jack did in the past, but it clearly means he made another huge mistake that ended with him at a hospital for animals instead of a pizza restaurant.
It leaves a little mystery for the listener. It's a great storytelling hook. But let's step back for a second and analyze why this whole story is so brilliant for learners.
Let's do it.
If you just give a student a piece of paper with the words boil, delicious, and terrible on it, their brain has to work really hard to memorize them. Without a story, those words are just empty data.
Right. There is nothing for the brain to grab onto.
Exactly. But when you wrap those words inside a highly relatable, funny story about a cooking disaster, the brain holds on to the information so much better. You are creating what we call narrative pegs.
So the story gives the words meaning.
Yes. When the listener hears the word terrible tomorrow, they aren't just going to remember a dictionary definition. They're going to immediately picture Jack's burnt pasta. They're going to remember candy and burnt toast.
That makes total sense. And the humor keeps the listener relaxed, right?
It's a huge part of it. When a student is laughing and relaxed, their brain becomes wide open. They are highly receptive to picking up new vocabulary without even trying hard.
It feels effortless, and right after the story finishes, Jack and Angela smoothly shift into teaching mode to make sure those new words really stick in your memory.
They do it very clearly.
Jack jokes and says, "Okay, my cooking is bad, but our English is good." And then they break down the core vocabulary. Let's walk through those words just like they do.
Sounds good. The first core word they highlight is delicious. Angela explains that delicious means the food tastes very, very good. And just to make it super clear, she reminds the listener that Jack's pasta was definitely not delicious.
It was the exact opposite of delicious.
Right. Then they move to the second word. This one is an action word, a verb. The word is boil.
Boil.
Jack explains that to boil water means to make the water very hot until it bubbles. If you look at a pot on the stove and you see big bubbles, that is boiling. And he reminds us of the recipe's instruction. Boil water in a pot.
Such a common action in the kitchen. Then they introduce the third core word, which contrasts perfectly with delicious. The word is terrible.
Terrible.
Angela says it is the exact opposite of delicious. It means very bad. When she tasted that awful pasta, her immediate reaction was, "This tastes terrible."
Now, what happens next is a really important part of the lesson.
Yeah.
They don't just want the listener to sit there quietly. They want active participation. Angela talks directly to the audience and says, "Okay, everyone, grab your pen and paper. It's time to speak."
I love that they say, grab your pen and paper. They are asking you to physically write the words down. Using your hand to write letters on a page is a proven way to lock new information into your memory.
It really is. But they don't stop at just writing. Jack then says, "Repeat after me." They are asking the listener to physically speak the English words out loud. And they do this in a very smart way.
Right, they leave space for you to talk.
Exactly. Jack reads the sentence clearly. He says, "The food is delicious." And then they leave a full 5-second pause in the audio.
5 seconds of pure silence. In an audio lesson, 5 seconds feels like a really long time. But it gives you, the listener, the comfortable space to actually practice without feeling rushed. You have time to hear your own voice saying, "The food is delicious."
During those 5 seconds, the learner is actively working. And after the pause, Angela comes right back with positive feedback. She says, "Beautiful. Write down the word delicious."
That encouragement is so nice. They use the same method for the next phrase. Jack says, "Boil water in a pot." We get another 5-second pause for the listener to practice. And Angela follows up by saying, "Great pronunciation. You are sounding like a native speaker."
It keeps the energy very positive. But the final practice prompt is where they do something really fun. Jack gives the listener one more sentence. "This tastes terrible." But he adds a specific instruction. He says, "Use your acting skills."
Use your acting skills. I just love that. He doesn't want you to read the sentence like a boring robot. He wants you to put real emotion into it.
She wants you to pretend you're actually Angela tasting that awful black pasta.
If you're listening to us right now, you should honestly try this. Imagine you just put a fork full of burnt, crunchy pasta covered in sugar into your mouth. What does your face do?
You probably scrunch up your nose.
Right. You scrunch your nose, you close your eyes, and your voice changes. You would naturally shout, "Ugh, this tastes terrible."
By acting it out, you connect the English word with a physical feeling. It takes a simple vocabulary word and turns it into a memorable experience. You won't forget what terrible means after that.
It also just makes practicing English in your living room a lot more fun. So let's briefly recap this awesome journey we've been on today.
Let's do it.
We started with a helpful review of clothing words, like asking for a price with "How much is this?" and expressing fit with "It is too small."
Then we moved into Jack's kitchen. We saw how a funny video on a phone caused a 1-hour distraction, which resulted in a pot of completely black, burnt pasta.
We watched Jack make a very strange choice by adding 5 spoons of sugar to his tomato sauce.
And we felt sorry for Angela as she tasted a meal that was like candy and burnt toast before they finally gave up and ordered a pizza.
And through all those laughs, we picked up 3 key vocabulary words. Delicious, meaning tasting very good. Boil, making water hot until it bubbles. And terrible, meaning very bad.
It's a really complete lesson. And right at the very end, Jack drops a teaser for the next day. He says, "Tomorrow we go outside to the zoo."
The zoo. Just imagine the trouble Jack could get into at a zoo. If he can cause a disaster just by boiling water in his own kitchen, I can only imagine what happens when he is surrounded by wild animals.
It definitely makes you want to tune in for the next lesson.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final thought to think about. The characters in our story learned by making a huge, funny mistake.
That's a really good point to reflect on.
Think about your own language learning journey. How often do you let the fear of making a terrible mistake stop you from trying something new? We worry about sounding silly or using the wrong word.
We all do that.
But the truth is, those mistakes are usually the most delicious opportunities to learn and grow. Just like Jack burning the pasta, a mistake isn't a failure. It just shows you what to adjust for next time.
Exactly. You have to be willing to sound a little terrible at first if you want to eventually sound great.
So don't be afraid to experiment. Thank you so much for joining our conversation today. We hope you picked up some great new English vocabulary at a comfortable pace. To borrow Angela's final sign-off, have a wonderful day, and we hope you have a delicious dinner tonight. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.